Okay, I'm smiling already. Welcome, Genesis Nation, where we're helping you leverage technology to create your dream practice. And I'm super excited to have, and I was laughing coming on board here because I'm with Dr. Joe Betz, and we just realized that we've known each other since 1998, which is insane that it's 25 years, and we both have like almost fully grown children now. Um, to name just a few things about you, Dr. Betz, before we get going, Dr. Joe is he owns two clinics in Idaho, Modern Chiropractic, and is also the vice president of Chiropractic Biophysics nonprofit. You are a instructor for chiropractic biophysics, as well as the vice president of the International Chiropractors Association, ICA. So we got a lot of stuff we can talk about today. And this is a very humble man for those of you who haven't met him. I've known Joe for a long time, and we used to geek out on spine work a long, long time ago, from adjusting to traction to all of that, because I was a CBP instructor and practitioner as well, and we kind of grew up together studying with Don and Deed. So let's talk about I want to start by talking about CBP nonprofit, because there's CBP nonprofit focuses on putting out fantastic, high-level, peer-reviewed index medicus research on structural type care. Now, not everyone in chiropractic does that, but it's really pushing spinal rehab forward in a direction leaps and bounds. There's recent studies proving the relationship between fibromyalgia symptoms and posture distortions, nerve retention in the cervical spine and forward head posture problems, lumbosacral issues and neuropathy related to posture. So tell me like the direction of that research and how you're involved. I'll shut up.
Yeah, CBP nonprofit, I've been involved for a long time. When I was a student, obviously, I became a member and donated to CBP nonprofit. So I always supported chiropractic research, even going back to student days. When I didn't have the money to give, I still gave. It was one of those things we just all did because we knew it needed to be done. We needed to be part of a bigger mission in chiropractic. And for CBP nonprofit, that mission is, advancing structural correction of the spine, which we view as subluxation correction. And so trying to work on, we always see these things in practice. We were talking about a little bit of this before we started, but when you're in practice and you're seeing patients, you see all these crazy things happening, and there's very little research on that. There's a lot of research on chiropractic care and back pain and neck pain and headaches and all these different pain syndromes. But when you start to see things changing neurologically and people's behavior changing and everything else, we don't have data on that, but we all see it as clinicians. And so CBP is trying to advance into that, but it's taken decades. When I first got into CBP, same time as you, Brian, when we were in school, I think there were maybe a dozen CBP research papers. We knew them all word for word, pretty much.
We were able to rip them out at every Thursday evening or whatever that was. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was kind of setting those research papers were kind of setting the stage for the next, 20 years that have gone by since then.
How many are there? How many published studies are there now?
I believe it's over 300 now.
Wow.
Which is, unbelievable when you think about that. That's more than a lot of research departments at chiropractic colleges in that same time frame, and they keep plugging away. I'm part of the research team. Obviously, Deed Harrison's the leader of it, and the kind of our marquee researcher that's involved in CBP research. I participate and serve on the board, so I'm familiar with most of the projects, but I'm not hands-on in them, and I don't do a lot of the writing, so I don't know the nitty-gritty details. But the science is advancing so much in structural correction of the spine and correcting subluxation of the spine, to the point where now we're finding improvements in, like we were talking about, there's a paper CBP did that corrects the neck curve in patients and the impact it actually has on sciatica, and not just the symptoms of sciatica, but actually the neurological function of sciatica, measuring different somatosensory evoked potentials and such.
Yeah, it was very well. It's cool because I saw the research is being done with there's a college in Canada, I guess, that it's connected with one of their physical medicine departments, so they're able to do not only X-ray studies and chiropractic treatment, and spine rehab, but they're putting SSEPs and measuring all that. So we're getting like full throttle data on neurological conditions. I love the study on fibromyalgia because, I'm sure a lot of us out there have treated, I've treated a ton of people, and working on posture correction. Obviously, it's a different type of condition that we're treating, but to show the research, it's good for marketing our practices as well and helping that condition for sure.
Yeah, and I mean it does. It helps the whole profession, because when the public reads, there's a research study that's come out about chiropractic helping fibromyalgia. They don't understand the nuances of the different aspects of chiropractic, structural correction of a cervical lordosis, for example, versus general chiropractic care. So the impact it has spills over to all chiropractors for sure.
Yeah.
Only the patients who really dig into the details of the studies are probably going to find out that it was a very unique form of chiropractic that's getting those results, but or at least publishing those results. Obviously, other doctors with other techniques are getting those results. They just haven't really gotten to the point where they're being studied yet.
Right. And it's, again, it's good that it's, it's flooding, it's just putting more people in the chiropractic offices, which, I know you agree, and especially being part of the ICA, and it's a good time for us to pivot into I guess, the political aspect of chiropractic. We could go on forever about CBP, but not everybody here at Genesis Nation is a CBP practitioner, but I love being able to drip this in there. So tell me about your involvement and, kind of where the ICA is helping move the profession.
The mission of the ICA is to protect and promote subluxation-based chiropractic throughout the world.
Awesome.
And, that doesn't have to be the sole purpose of a person's office, but, there are movements, from outside of our profession and from within our profession to, discredit the concept of a subluxation, the impact adjusting or correcting the spine can have on a person's overall health. And the ICA is the only organization that is dedicated to, preserving that concept and advancing that concept, protecting that concept. So that's why I'm so involved in the ICA. It's obviously, like you said, it's not a technique specific organization. I'm the only CBP doctor on I think we have 17 or 19 board members. I'm the only CBP doctor on that board.
Yeah.
We have a really diverse board of directors. We have upper cervical doctors and pediatric doctors and sports chiropractors and, all kinds of doctors that have different focuses, but we all have the same mission of protecting and promoting subluxation-based chiropractic. So that's the sole mission of the ICA. And it's the only organization really doing that. So, we're working, politically, with regards to like Medicare legislation, for example. And, we had a bill last year that was, put forward to Congress and so forth that ultimately didn't pass, but we're still working on that again this year. So we have a lot invested in that process, and again, in rewriting the Medicare legislation language, for example, we're still, seeking to protect the concept of subluxation within that and subluxation-based chiropractors within the way Medicare operates. So one of the key things we're trying to also do for doctors with Medicare, for example, is create an opt-out provision, for doctors who run, especially cash practices. If you're running a cash practice and you see a Medicare patient, you pretty much have to deal with Medicare. You can't
you still have to deal with them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we would create an opt-out to be able to allow doctors to formally opt out of participating with Medicare at all.
I'm looking in the camera because I know our cash practice customers or clients.
Yeah.
Because that's why they're getting into cash practices. Many chiropractors, they don't have to deal with that, but they still do. What kind of barriers are you running into? Obviously, like, I just applaud the ICA for, sticking with the vision and the mission, although it's, because I know CBP defines subluxation in mathematical, engineering, biomechanical terms, but there's a wide range and awesome chiropractic work being done still in that subluxation realm. What kind of barriers are you running up against, with the efforts of the ICA?
Most of the barriers we run into, I mean, you have maybe a misunderstanding within the medical community. So outside of chiropractic, those barriers is, misunderstandings, not under, the medical doctors and healthcare professions don't really understand what we do and where we're coming from, and, and where our focus is within the healthcare system. And so there's a lot of training and education that goes on outside of the profession for us when we're dealing with a lot of the bureaucracy, for example, and legislators and so forth. But our biggest battles, unfortunately, are within the profession. You have groups within a profession who are trying to, like in British Columbia, for example, trying to limit the ability of chiropractors to be able to utilize x-rays, like specifically for evaluating for subluxation of the spine and structural alignment of the spine. And so that movement is not isolated to just British Columbia. This is a widespread international movement. And so we have a lot of battles that we're fighting in that regards, unfortunately, in the profession. If we didn't have to spend so much time,
well,
circling wagons.
There's polarity that just exists, that it's not helping the profession move forward.
No, exactly.
I was looking at, like, in the difference, like the medical profession seems to have like one driven direction where they don't have all these, even though there might be factions. That's just my experience of it. So what can we do as individual practitioners, or, like, how can we help this mission? Because it does happen, right? It starts with the individual and then to the group. So for those of us who are subluxation based and want to push this vision through and help the profession, beat these other factions, so they're not beating us down, what can we do as individuals? Like, how can you best arm us?
In my opinion, being so involved in research and different organizations and such, is that this really is a research based problem. The groups that are out there, will either ignore or try to discredit the research that supports subluxation-based chiropractic. And it's mostly ignore. They just pretend it's not there. They claim it's not there, but it is. And so ultimately, I think what an individual practitioner can do to help is supporting chiropractic research. And any type of subluxation-based chiropractic research is going to be a big help, whether it's to, a subluxation-based chiropractic program at a college. We both went to Life University, and Stephanie Sullivan's the head of the research department there. She's doing brain-based chiropractic research, similar to some of the stuff Heidi Havoc's doing. And those things are fantastic. And we need more research in those areas, or whether it's CBP and supporting chiropractic biophysics nonprofit. Again, that research is helping all chiropractors, even though it's structural correction specific.
It's hard to argue with 300 published papers over 20 years and it's all data on subluxation, starting from the spinal models to now applying to conditions. I'm nostalgic because I remember Don Harrison talking about, like, what the direction that he wanted for this. I actually just got tingles, like, thinking. I could remember, like, we were like puppy dogs sitting there listening to him, right? But he was talking about creating the model, which he was just finishing as we came onto school, and then publishing it, and then applying it to conditions down the road. So kudos to you and Deed and Joe Ferrantelli, and like the whole CBP team, Paul Oakley, everybody doing these awesome things. So to kind of finish up here, tell me about, we're going to pivot a little bit to private practice. You have 2 practices. Now, how do you leverage technology to make your practices more efficient?
Well, you know me pretty well. When I get into something, I really get into it. Like, even documentation and billing and coding and so forth is something that, I've taught for Deed at seminars to CPP doctors. Anything that I do, I'm going to go out and learn myself and make sure I'm doing it right. Yeah. And the neat thing, like, obviously we're clients of Genesis, and I've used Genesis now. I don't know, at least been at least 8 years now, I guess. And I've used several programs prior to that, and I was intimately involved in the development of those programs for doctors. One system I helped create the doctor side from the ground up. All the the macros and the programming and the layout and user friendliness of the whole system. And so I've done a lot of that kind of stuff. And so when I I switched to Genesis. At first I was like any doctor, I'm really nervous.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
my God.
that transition. Like the hard transition is like, it's the biggest pain for everybody.
Yeah, it is, but I saw the benefits of it, and looking at the system compared to what I was using, it was
I'm gonna give a quick shameless plug, because we've actually at Genesis have created a team to help handle that integration. But sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's honestly, I mean, that's been one of the amazing things about Genesis. The software itself is amazing. Okay, it really is. It's extremely robust. It does a better job than anything else I've ever looked at or worked with. But the team at Genesis is truly remarkable. At first I thought, man, these guys are really great, but they're just doing that because I'm involved with CBP or whatever. They're just kind of extra friendly and responsive to me. But then I go on like the Facebook Genesis Nation group, and man, they're like that with every single person. I'm like,
constantly.
So I'm not special at all, is what I found out.
No, you're definitely you and Shelly are both very special,
but they are. They're amazing with everybody. Everybody that uses the system and has problems, man, they're so responsive. And so it's not just about the specific software itself, because that's only as good as the people behind it. And you can have great software and products, but if the service is bad and things go down and no one's responding, can't get a hold of anybody, then it's a nightmare, especially in busy practices. You rely on this technology to be able to help your patients, and without a good developed, well thought out software, whether it's note taking or diagnostic stuff like X-ray software like Joe Ferrantelli has with Posture Ray, and these things have to work and have to work well, or else it can ruin your day.
It slows down report of findings, systems, all that. How long have you had your second practice?
The second practice has been 6 years.
Okay. So were those like that technology? Because obviously you started the first practice way earlier. Did you find it much easier to ramp up the growth of that practice using those technologies?
Well, yeah, not only because they worked well and were highly functional and everything, but you can actually man those off site. Obviously, these communication systems can be centrally operated. So like my second clinic is more of a single doctor satellite office. My main office, we have three of us doctors here. So the other office is smaller. It's more of a satellite clinic. So we try to scale down, the activities they have to perform there, because they've got a skeleton crew, and so they can do, or we can handle with my main staff at my main clinic, we can handle a lot of that activity just off site from the satellite clinics.
Internally there. That's cool. That's smart.
That way they're just focused on seeing patients and getting people well. That's pretty much the main thing.
From a business perspective, you're running it lean, you're managing your business through the technology. Do you want to open more satellite offices? Is that a goal?
Oh yeah. We're in the process of looking at a third right now. I haven't decided if I'd branch out of my area. I think 3 or maybe 4 would be the max I could do in my area, and then we would have to kind of grow beyond the boundary of Boise, Idaho. So
who do you have to thank? Because I know you thanked her when we talked earlier. So who's the big thanks there? Because if she's watching this, you got to give a thank you to her.
To my wife?
Yeah, of course.
Shelly, yeah. My wife runs the offices. She's absolutely fantastic. I don't think I wouldn't be able to do any of the things I do without her, handling everything she handles, and that includes outside of the clinic. Not only would I not have as successful clinics as I have, it would also be all the things I do outside of the clinic, the research and the politics with the ICA, everything. So
yeah, good. So next podcast or next interview, we'll have to talk about like relationship management. Like, how do you get married for so long and all that kind of stuff? I want to learn that as well. So you are a resource and a gift to the profession, man. So like, lastly, like, what is it that stokes your inner fire? Like, what is it that keeps you going, man? Because you are like, you're healthy, you're keeping your body alive, and your family life, you're a family man, you're a businessman. Like, what is it that stokes your fire?
I think it's I don't like bullies. And to me, whether it's inside of our profession or outside of our profession, I think subluxation-based chiropractors are bullied. And it aggravates me. So that kind of keeps me going. It's like, I'm not going to let them say this because I know it's not true. And
Yeah.
so, I'm going to find out the truth and prove that they're wrong and prove that we're right, and so forth. That's what keeps me going. But I do so in a collaborative. I want these people to see, like, hey, we are research based and we're evidence based,
Yeah.
even though we're subluxation based,
Yeah.
and both things can live together. And so that's my goal and my mission, is to make sure that that happens. And that really comes all the way from, you mentioned Don Harrison. He was my mentor. It comes from him, and his work ethic. And I saw him, unfortunately work himself, to being ill and passing away at a younger age than he should have. So I have to, maintain balance in what I do, and I do that. But it's his motivation and inspiration in my early years that I think still keep me going.
I'm gonna also throw Sang in there, who recently,
Yeah.
that was real sad to see
Yeah.
that. But yeah, the two of them and their work ethic, obviously we're learning a little more balance, but I want to commend you for all the efforts you've always put in. You've always done it with just a calm confidence and power, and I've always appreciated that about you. So because my energy is not always as calm, and but we've definitely bounced off each other, which has been great. So you are an awesome resource. So we'll put your contact information below, as far as being able to support CBP nonprofit, supporting the ICA, because people like Dr. Joe Betz are really helping push this profession forward. And I'm honored that you're not only a client, but like a super user of Genesis, and just pushing this profession forward. So thanks a lot, man.
Hey, thank you.